Hello my dear students. In this video, we are going to learn another database object, procedures. What are the learning objectives of this lesson? We're going to see what is a stored procedure, the syntax of writing a procedure, the various parts of a procedure, and how to call a procedure from an SQL statement. Alright, let's start it. What is a procedure? A procedure is a subprogram that performs a specific action. A procedure invocation or call is a statement. But before understanding this sentence or a statement, let's understand what a procedure is by taking a small diagram. Right? We'll just make a small diagram and see what is a procedure and what is its use. Let's suppose we have an SQL block. Okay, so we have an SQL block. So let me name it as SQL block 1. Alright, SQL block. Similarly, I have some set of statements here within the SQL block, some executable statements. So now I have another block, another SQL block. So how many blocks are there in all? There are 2 SQL blocks. This is, let me name it as SQL block 2. Right? So I have 2 SQL blocks, and within these SQL blocks we have some set of statements, maybe different set of statements. Right? They need not be the same. We have some different set of statements. Now within this SQL block there is one particular statement. Some particular action we are doing. We are trying to insert a record, let's say in student statement. So there is a statement where we are going to insert a record into a student statement. Similarly, the rest of the statements might be different, but we have a similar action that's being done in this block 2. Alright, record into student statement. So what we are actually doing, what we are actually performing here, you can see we have 2 SQL blocks. One is SQL block 1 and the next is SQL block 2. Both the blocks have a statement of inserting a record into the student table. So you can see the same action actually is being performed in 2 SQL blocks, in 2 separate SQL blocks. Right? Now, why should I do the same action twice? Why should I write the same statement twice? That's my question. So instead, to make it easier, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a block, I'm going to take another block, right? Let's name the, okay, and this statement, whatever it's written here, the insert statement, I'll have it in this block. Okay, I'll just put that, insert this action, this particular action, insert record into students table. Alright, so what I'm doing here, instead of, I'm writing the same task, whatever we are performing in both the SQL blocks, I'll be doing it in a separate block. And I'm going to name this block as, I would say task underscore insert. So I'm just going to give a name to the block as task underscore insert. So now, what I'm going to do is, I need not have this statement anymore. What I'm going to do is, I'm not going to write this statement anymore here, neither here nor there, no, in any block. Instead what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use the name of that particular block, which is nothing but task underscore insert, which is going to do the same work, right? Which is going to perform the same work. So I say Control C. And task underscore insert. So what exactly we are doing here, if you can see, I'm not using the statement that has to be written within the block. Rather, I'm going to take out the statement that's been written in common in both the blocks. I'm going to write it separately in a separate block and give a name to that block. So instead of writing the statements within that block, I'm going to just make a call to that statement. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to make a call to this block. Instead of writing the statement from both the blocks, I'm going to make a call to that statement. Alright. So this particular block, this particular block, okay, we can say it as a procedure. Alright, so do you understand the picture here? So we are doing the same task at different times, at different places. So why should you repeat the same task again and again? Instead, I'm going to use the task and I'm going to put it in a separate block. Just call that block whenever you need it. So that block is known as a procedure, and the call that you are making to that block, we call it as a procedure call. Alright, so let's get back to our presentation and let's go by the definition once again. A procedure is a subprogram that performs a specific action. As we have seen, that particular procedure block is doing a particular action. So we call it as a procedure. It's a subprogram that is meant to do some specific task. And we're going to make a call to that block. Alright. So how do you write this procedure? Procedure will have two sections, a header section and a body section. Right? So header section consists of all the declarations, whereas the body section consists of the executable statements. So all the declarations, the call, the parameters and all, passing the parameters, making a call to that particular function. So all these, naming the block, these things we actually do it in the header section. And in the executable statements, whatever the executable statements that you write within the procedure, we are going to put them in the body section. Is that clear? Alright, so let's see the header section. A procedure begins with a header section and that's specified. Okay, this is all the theory part. You can just go through this theory part. Just pause the video and go through this. We'll see what this in, out and in, out modes are. What are the parameters list? How do you declare it? By using the syntax and an example. We'll go by an example. So look here, create or replace procedure and procedure name. This all comes under, this whole thing comes under declaration header section. Right, from here to here, everything is the declaration. From here to here, it is the body section. So here, in the parameter list, this is a very important, part of procedures. Parameters, do you know what parameters are? When you make a function call, suppose if you want to send some parameter list or some kind of values to the function, to the procedure, so we have to declare parameters. So those parameters can be of three different kinds. It can be in, it can be out, and it can be in, out. In, if the variable or the argument that you are specifying is of in type, that means it can actually receive a value from the procedure call. And out parameter here instead is going to return a value back to the function call. Right, from the block where actually the function procedure has made its call, you're going to send a value back to that particular block. In-out mode, if you declare a parameter in in-out mode, it performs both the actions of in and out. Alright, so these are the three ways in which parameters can be declared in the procedures. So a procedure begins with a header and that specifies its names and optional parameter list. So parameters can be declared, need not be declared. It depends on the requirement. Each parameter can be in either in, out or in-out mode. The parameter mode specifies whether a parameter can be read from or write to. The same thing actually. So when it comes to the body section, we can have three different parts. Right, one is the declaration part, and there is executable part and the exception handling. Suppose if you want to declare some variables and constant, put them in the declarative section. Right, the statements that are supposed to be executed, you put them under execution section. And finally, if you think some kind of exceptions are going to arise, those exception statements, put them in the exception handling part. Alright, so all these things we write it in body section. The name of the function, the name of the procedure, and the name and the parameters list will be declared in the header section. Alright, so again I repeat, so we are going to, this is the declaration part, or sorry, the header part, and this will be the executable part, or right, body section. So this is the header and this is the body. So you can see the syntax here: create or replace procedure, procedure name. We're going to name the block, that is we're going to name the procedure. Set some parameters, depends on the requirement, right? And you're going to write some declaration statements, if they exist. So declaration statement, from here it starts, the body part, begin the executable statements. If you think the executable statements might arise some kind of exceptions, alright, then you put an exception handler part as well and handle those exceptions in the exception handling part. Alright, so this is how it goes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take an example and we'll see how it works. Well, let's see an example now. Let's create a procedure and make a call to it. Right? So we need to create a procedure. The procedure is created. We have already seen the syntax. So the name of the procedure that we are going to do here, we're going to create here, will be student underscore marks. So this will be the name of your procedure. And if you notice, the procedure has some parameters. And how many parameters does it have? It has only one parameter. And the name of the parameter is ST number, which stands for student number. And the data type of the parameter is, it is the data type of the field student number that exists in students table. Alright. And there are three more variables that are declared: sname, marks, and grade, which stand for student name, marks, and grade. So this, from here till here, this we call it as a header section. Fine. So the next is executable statements that come. What exactly your procedure needs to do. The task that your procedure is going to perform in this example is, we are going to take the marks of a particular student, calculate the grade. Okay, we'll have some conditions. We're going to calculate the grade based on some conditions and then print the student name, marks, and grade. Clear? So we're going to specify one particular student number. That student marks are collected, calculate the grade based on the marks, and then print the name, marks, and the grade. Fine. So that is what actually this procedure is doing. If you can see here, the student name and marks. So we want the student name and marks, right? So, but we have the student name in a student table and marks in the marks table. So that the fields are from two different tables. So if you want to fetch the data from two different tables, we need to join them. So that is what exactly we're doing here. Look here, we're joining the students table and then we're with the marks table. Fine. So from the marks table, we're going to get the marks field. From the students table, we'll be displaying the student name. So this is actually what we're going to do. Right? If you have to join two tables, it has to be, it should be based on some common, field. So that common field or column is the student number that's common in both the tables. And for which student are you going to print the details? That will be provided by the user. Right? As simple as that. So we are going to calculate the grade based on the marks. This is all the nested if-else statements. So we have two this output put underscore line write statements here. Before actually saying that, I want to run this particular query. I want to see the details that exist in students table. Quickly we'll do that. Right, we'll quickly have a look the details of the student table. Can you see here? We have a student number column which consists of 5 different rows. Similarly, we're going to check the details of the marks table as well. Let's run it once again with the marks table. Now let's see the details of the marks table. Fine. Now see the marks table also has a column called student, and if you can see here, there are 2 rows with the student number 101. There are 2 rows with 104. I'll just zoom in. You can just have a look, a better look. 101 we have 2 records, 104 we have 2 records, rest 3, 102, 103 and 105 they are 1. They are only one record for each, right? So suppose if as a user, if I call this procedure, okay, as a user I'm going to call the procedure and I want to print the details of student number 101. I want to print the details of the student 101. What details are we printing? We are printing the name, marks and the grade. Now look here, if I want to print the grades of or the details of student number 101, how many rows do we have? We have multiple rows, more than one row. Now which grade are you going to consider or which marks are you going to consider? You know, there's no, we don't have a clarity. So what we do is, in such a case, this particular procedure, what we're going to do is we are going to write an exception. When your result set has multiple rows, more than one row, then we're going to call an exception saying that, and we're going to print some kind of message more than one row is fetched. All right. Suppose if I want the details of student number 105, right, 105, because there's only one row and the marks are how much? 88. If the marks are 88, what would be the grade? The grade would be B grade. All right. So if it is 105, how does it get printed? The name of the person with 105, then his marks as 88 and grade would be B. All right. So this is actually what we are going to do. So before we start doing it, we have to create it, right? So we need to create the procedure. So let's create the procedure in the first place. Let's create the procedure. So we need to have the object, right? So let's create the procedure and see you have a message died down there as procedure created. All right, the procedure is created. The next step is what? We need to make a call to the procedure. So I'm going to make a call to the procedure. I'm going to write an SQL block, right? I'm going to write an SQL block. It's just nothing but making a call to the procedure. What is the name of the procedure? Student underscore marks, right? So can you see that? Student underscore marks. Shall I zoom in a bit? Yeah. Okay, this is what I'm going to do now. Student underscore marks, and remember I'm doing it with 101. How many rows are we going to retrieve if we say 101? Exactly, we are going to return 2 rows. So what output are you expecting? Because there are too many rows, it goes to the exception block and it's going to print more than one row fetched. All right, so I have selected these statements and I'm going to run it now. Now look at the output. So is this your expected output? More than one row fetched. Okay. Now similarly, I'll run it now with example 105. Suppose I want to know the details of the student with the student number 105. Right. So again select the block. Look, the student name is Ram, marks are 88 and grade is B. Alright, so this is what a procedure is. So how many times you want to make a call, you can call it. So you need not write the same statements or write those SQL statements again and again. You need not do that calculation part again and again. Whenever you want it, whenever you need it, you just make a call to it. Before wrapping up this session, let's just summarize the things that we have learned in this video. We have learned the benefits of stored procedure, learned the syntax of defining a procedure, and we have seen the various sections of a procedure, understood the modes of parameters, that in, out and in, out, and also have seen how to call a procedure. Alright. If you want a detailed notes, you can refer to this file plsql3.pdf to learn more about procedures. A detailed notes you'll find here. Okay. So with this, we're going to end this video and we're going to see more objects in the coming up videos. Until then, take care. Bye bye.